This video is something that I wish that all runners understood it. It's something that we call relative energy deficiency in sport. And if you are a runner or you are someone who works with runners, you need to understand what this is. And I'm going to explain what it is, the importance of it, and I'm going to tag below some screening questionnaires that have been validated that you can do to understand, if you have been going on. So we're talking about RED-S, which is relative energy deficiency in sport. And you may have heard of it, you may have not. You may be more familiar with something that we call LEA, which is low energy availability. And they are relatively within the same realm. We talk around RED-S, which is where you have prolonged energy deficit. Your body isn't getting the energy that it needs from fuel, and you start to see some of these changes to a lot of the really important bodily systems, things like performance. We see changes to our bones, our cognitive health, our reproductive health, our metabolic health, our cardiovascular health. Whereas LEA is a little bit more in the short term. So as an example, I might need 2,000 calories to get around the day for my brain function, my organ function, and they take priority. So our brain, it's only around 3% of our body weight, but it takes 20% of our energy. So if I eat food, brain gets priority, organs get priority, and we need them to. They keep us alive. So let's say I'm 2,000 to keep things going, keep the lights on per se, and I go out and I go for a really big run. And let's say I go for a run, and the big run is 2,000 calories that I use. I need to be consuming that in food. Otherwise, I'm going to fall into an energy deficit. And what ends up happening is, if we do fall into that, the body will prioritize the things that keep us alive. As I mentioned, the organs, the brain, and the things that we need, our bones, our tendon, our reproductive health, doesn't have the energy to be able to function. And that's why we know RED-S is a significant risk factor for people developing stress fractures and bone stress injuries. So I work with lots of runners, and one of the screening questionnaires that we have below, we've used the LEAM-Q and the LEAM-Q, which is for males and females. And it's surprising, and some studies show up to 50% of people, female athletes, that will have some degree of energy deficit, whether it's LEA, whether it's RED-S. So it's really important that we're screening for this. If you're someone who's had recurrent injuries and no one seems to understand why, you miss a lot of training because you're sick. And if you look up the RED-S Cat2, and you can see some of these, symptoms and things that can happen as a result of being in an energy deficit, you may be someone at risk, or you may have it going on. Now, it's not a diagnosis that I will make, and you don't fill out the questionnaire and then you have this diagnosis and then you just eat more and things go away. You really do need to work with a qualified professional, and it needs to be a dietitian. And, if you have access to a sports dietitian, not a nutritionist, you shouldn't be getting advice from nutrition advice from me or a PT or a physiotherapist, because it's really, really important. There can be lots of different categories, from unintentional, where you don't even know that you're not eating enough. It can be intentional but malaligned, where, you're trying to, let's say, cut weight for a race, and you're trying, it's important to eat, but then you're not really understanding the other effects it can have on your body. Can be eating disorders and distorted eating. So there's a lot of things that can go on, exercise addiction, that type of thing, that can go on, that can lead to this. And there are qualified people out there to work with it. So we know that this prevalence will increase during competition. So if you're going from, not track season to track season, training for a marathon, it is more common in females. The 3 risk gap populations are females, people that have weight conscious sports like weightlifting, boxing, and people that do prolonged exercise because the energy demands are quite high. So we have some great research to show how performance is harmed, but also just for everything else in life, like your sleep, how much you can focus, your sickness, your immune health, all these things that go into making you a sustainable runner, and more so a sustainable human. So it is so important that you understand this and work with a qualified professional. The body will thank you for it by performing well. Now, calculating how much you need is very difficult, because that can change day to day from competition, and that's not for myself, and ideally not for you to work out. That's to work with someone. And a lot of the runners that work with me will have a couple of sessions with the dietitian to understand what the energy demands are, and to understand what they're going to need to be a sustainable runner. There's food choices, there's food groups, there's other meals they can have, what to have during training. If you're someone that struggles with gastrointestinal things, these are all things that can be helped with the right professional. And as we said, there are some side effects I'll tag below, but some really common ones: over 12 hours of exercise, maybe more at risk. If you haven't had a regular menstrual cycle, that's a really important risk factor. A lesser risk factor for men, which is a potential in the Reddit Cat 2, which I'll tag below, is the prevalence of morning erections. If you've had one high risk stress fracture or two low risk stress fracture in the last 12 months, your testosterone levels, your cholesterol levels, your calcium levels, all these types of things. And even as an example, we know 90% of your calcium is stored in your bones. You're eating enough calcium, the calcium gets drawn out of your bone, and that makes your bones weaker and more susceptible to a bone stress. Or if you've got one, it makes it really hard for your bones to recover. So it's important to fuel, it's important to work with a qualified professional. And if you need any advice, comment below and I can get you in touch with the people that I work with.